Alright, let's get this video started. Today I'm going to be going over how I did the custom work to get a 2-inch receiver, hitch receiver up front, and a winch up front. And I know you guys have seen some of these in the past videos, but today I'm going to go over and show you in detail exactly what I did to get these put on here. Starting with the body and the frame of the golf cart, we're in the very front, and normally you have that big giant plastic front bumper. And I didn't have any before pictures or after pictures of what I did. Well, I guess this is considered the after picture or after video, but you normally have a big plastic bumper, and it has two brackets, and then you have a center post that comes up the middle, and it actually holds the front part of the front body here. And I'm looking to reinforce this in a little different way, but for now it's just as is. It's fine. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't really move. It's actually quite secure. But there is a center post that comes up from the frame and let me show you. So you have the cross member between the golf cart, and you have the two frame square tubing here, and you have a welded crossbar. And there's a center post that actually goes up, like I said, and attaches here, and it's welded to that crossbar right in the middle. So I had to take a grinder with a cutting wheel, or an angle grinder with a cutting wheel. I cut it off, and then I ground the remnants flat. So your cross member would then be flat across the top, so there's no protrusion from there. After that, I went ahead and got myself a 2-inch hitch receiver, and this is an item off of eBay. It's a standard 2-inch receiver with a standard, I believe it's a 5/8 hole for the larger cross pins like you would see on a normal hitch. But this is something, if you were to look it up, bring the light down real quick. There we go. If you were to look this item up, it's an RV bumper hitch, and it's a flat piece of metal with the tubing welded onto it, and it is not a towing hitch receiver. It's a receiver meant to put on the back of your RV so that you could put a bike rack or that cargo carrier that I showed in the last movie. It's meant to support that kind of load. It's not meant to be towing. You're not going to tow a vehicle on a trailer on the road with this hitch. So while it is built very strong, it's not considered like a DOT approved towing hitch. So on eBay, I think these run about, I don't know, I think you can find them anywhere from $15 to, and then you can go up from there. You can get some crazy ones. But the width, I believe, is 4.5 inches by 6 inches, somewhere in that area. It's pretty universal. If you look it up, you're more than likely going to run across one. And like I said, this is all custom work, so if you find something better and make that work, or you find something not as easy to install, but you still make it work, hey, it's a success at that point. But this worked for me really well, and it has 4 holes already drilled into it. And since the cross member is now flat, I'm able to drill out what previously were the holes to hold the brackets to hold that big giant bumper up front. And I know this is a lot of explanation for this, but if you were to look up images on Google, like the front end of a Yamaha Drive, or DIY golf carts also showed how to do a wheel alignment on here, and they took the front body off and the front bumper, and you can really see what is factory behind that. All that is removed so that I can have the cross member flat. So I drilled the 2 holes through this. It is not square tubing. It's actually just 3/4 of a square. It goes up, over, and then back down. And it's, let's say 2 inches, 1.5 to 2 inches wide. And I'm using 1/2 inch bolts. So I drilled 2 holes up front here. And you can see that this is the cross member, and then let's see if I can get this in. There we go. You have the cross member and then the plate steel that the receiver is welded to. So the bolts sandwich the plate here for the receiver up against the bottom of the golf cart. And I also did it for the rear here. Let's see if I can't get the light. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So we have the front of the golf cart here. What my finger's touching is the top of that plate with what the receiver is. And then this is another cross member here on the golf cart that I've drilled 2 holes to put 2 more 1/2-inch bolt throughs, and I'm using grade 8 washers. I highly suggest doing that because as you torque these bolts and nuts down, you can start bending this metal. There's a lot of force in here. The grade 8 steel disperses all that load across the face of this steel, so you won't have any deformation of the steel. It also, when you start doing that, your paint will crack a little bit, and which can introduce rust. So I highly suggest using grade 8 steel. It's a lot stiffer, so it's not going to want to flex like normal washers and bend with that force coming down. So these bolts are, I want to say 3 or 4 inches, whatever the plate is, up this high, up to this point, and I could go a lot shorter. I just haven't gone out. It works fine. I like having that little extra on there. I know that's a lot, but it is what it is. It works fine. These were, the front 2 were measured a lot better because I had to go back and actually redo the front here to put the winch on. But I mean, you can take a measurement of that. I want to say that's 2 inches, 2-inch bolts. The bolts are flange heads, so they kind of already have a built-in washer. And since this is a winch mount plate, this is all already incredibly stiff steel. It's not going to bend. It's not going to flex. So I got away with just using the bolt. Don't need a washer here. But when I come underneath, these are grade 8 steel washers that I've put against the receiver. So what you've got here is a sandwiching effect of the front 2 bolts that hold the winch plate to the frame of the golf cart and the hitch receiver all together up front, and the back 2 bolts just hold the back of the 2-inch receiver back there. So that's going to take a lot of, take your time, align it, mark things out, double check, and then go ahead and drill through them. Over the testing that I've done, I've already put this under a lot of load to make sure that it would hold and withstand. Do everything. This is not like a how-to video. I don't want to get in any trouble with somebody doing something stupid. You know who you are out there, but this is just what I've done, and the whole point of this video is just to introduce creativity, hopefully get everybody anybody who's interested, thinking of what you can do just to see what somebody else has done. But well, this is off of eBay. Now let's transition to the winch here. This winch is from Harbor Freight. It's a Badland winch. It's a 2,000-pound winch. It's considered an ATV, so it's definitely considered a very, very small winch. I'm using the braided rope and just the factory hook here. And then the braided rope that you can get from Harbor Freight comes with the fair lead. This is it's actually quite nice. It's cast aluminum and then finished off nicely. So you're not going to wear on your synthetic rope. And it even comes with 2 shields, actual rope shields, and I keep that towards the end. Let me pull it out so you can see. And that'll just keep the rope from fraying. But overall, this winch is actually really nice. It comes as a whole kit, so you have all the electronics, everything you need. You really just have to hook it up to your battery, and you're good to go. the winch I've seen go on sale is cheap as, I think, like $50 for the whole winch, and it comes with a steel cable, the roller end fair lead, and the hook and all the electronics. I think it was like $50, and they come with a wireless transmitter, so you don't have to have that cable that's tied to the front of your, you know, right to where you're driving or wherever you mount it. It's a really nice winch for what you get. I can't say anything bad about it. I absolutely love it. It fits this golf cart really well. And they actually did one better. They sell the winch mounting plate, which also houses the mounting points for your fair lead. And this plate costs $5 normal price. I mean, that's just incredible. It's really cheap. It's incredibly sturdy. And I'll explain how sturdy it is because I'll show you what I can do with this. But the reason I wanted to put a winch on is I'm not taking this four-wheeling. I'm not taking it mudding. I'm not going to get it stuck in a mud pit. But I want a winch so that I can load it into the truck or, you know, let's say trailer. Let's say I can't get the thing rolling up there, so I need to pull it in. But mainly for my truck. Excuse me. But when loading a golf cart, I have the 2 ramps that go onto the tailgate, and then I winch it up. I am not going to drive this thing up there. I put too much time. If there was an accident, it's not worth the money of the ramps accidentally sliding out and this whole golf cart come crashing down. It's not going to survive a drop like that. An ATV, a dirt bike, yeah, they get banged up. They're built for that. But a golf cart is very fragile in comparison when it's not on its 4 wheels. So I don't want to use the propulsion of the wheels to put it in the truck. I'm using a winch to pull it up. And this winch has plenty of power. I think the golf cart standard is about 600 pounds the way it is. The seat's an extra 100. The wheels and tires, let's just say another 100 pounds. So we're looking at 700 pounds roughly that this golf cart weighs, and this winch can pull 2,000. It works absolutely well. Okay, getting the camera resituated here. So all I had to do was drill 2 bigger holes to accept the 1/2-inch bolts for this plate, and I mounted it to the cross member, as you can see here, which also hold the receiver on. I know I just kind of went over that, but those 2 bolts are enough to hold this thing solid as a rock, and it does not flex at all in any way. The bolts holding onto the winch are 2 grade 8 steel nuts and bolt. They are 3/8. So you have 2 3/8 bolts holding the winch to the plate, and then you have 2 1/2-inch bolts holding the whole assembly to the golf cart. Those 2 1/2-inch bolts are way stronger than the 2 3/8 bolts, and if they've already said and calculated that 2 3/8 bolts hold 2,000 pounds, 2 1/2-inch bolts are plenty. Like I said, I had to drill 2 holes to fit 1/2-inch bolts in, which means that these are actually factory drilled. They're smaller bolts than 2 1/2-inch. So this is a little overkill, but I like having that little extra security with the hardware. But when you put this on here, I had to be careful on how far this mounted back, because the winch, I know it looks like it's hitting the suspension here, but there's actually a gap back up underneath there. It clears it. It does not get none of the suspension hits the winch. It clears. There's plenty of room, extra metal in the back here behind the bolt, so it's not going to tear the plate in any way if it's pulling. And I've already tested it, and if you're going to do work like this, it's on your own, and make sure you test it before you 100% lay into it and rely on it. Work your way up just to make sure your work is not shoddy and that it's actually good work. So the reason I wanted to mount the winch was not only to load in the truck, but I just recently added a snow plow to this, and I'm using it to actually remove snow at a church. So this winch comes handy in 2 ways: to pick up the snow plow and to load it into the truck. So it's not just for show, it's not for mudding, it's for two very practical uses. And the golf cart has plenty of horsepower to get through snow with the big giant tires, these things. It doesn't break loose in the snow. You'd be very surprised on how solid this is. You can't get the wheels to spin in snow. It just grabs. But you know, this is just my way of doing it. It's just my own design. It's the way I thought about it. But be creative. Try different ways. You know, you might want to mount the 2-inch receiver up front here. Who knows, that might suit you better. But because this is flat steel, and that's actually the top of the 2-inch receiver, it will accept a regular drop hitch. And I've tried it. It works great for taking like a small trailer to the backyard, or you know, you just want to pull a trailer around just to get it back into a parking space. It actually works pretty well for that. And one of the things I really use this for is, and I'll show you in a minute, that cargo rack. And this is really where I want to put the cargo rack. This is mounted more solid. It's mounted onto the frame of the golf cart. The golf cart does not bend or flex in any way up front here. It's built really